Today we're talking about courage, and I'm going to let the wise words of a furry creature guide me as we open. So picture yourself in a green lobby entryway and hear these words of wisdom. What makes a king out of a slave? Courage. What makes the flag on the mast to wave? Courage. What makes the elephant charge his tusk in the misty mist and the dusky dusk? What makes the muskrat guard his musk? Courage. What makes the Sphinx the seven wonder? Courage. What makes the dawn come up like thunder? Courage. What makes the Hottentot so hot? What put the ape in apricot? What have they got that I ain't got? Courage. You can say that again. Well done. So, courage can be seen as bravery in the face of adversity. And I've brought some examples to share with you. Courage can be seen as doing things we never thought we would, such as me spending 15 days whitewater rafting on the Colorado River in the Grand Canyon, which I never have to do again now because I did it once. Or stepping out and starting a workout plan. There's people on Facebook who are inspiring me daily with how hard they're trying and they're taking this risk to do something they've never done. Courage can be seen as speaking our truth, even when our voice shakes, when we go up against a bully, when we face discrimination. There is pride happening all over the country today. New York, Seattle, world pride, country pride. People stepping up and saying, it's time. Sometimes, though, courage can simply be the only option that we have to keep going. My sister Anita is a 2-time cancer survivor. She's also an actor, a singer, a dancer, a model, a teacher. And on one leg, she swims, she does Pilates, she does Tai Chi. She gave birth to my niece almost 25 years ago. On her prosthetic leg, just for the record, she tap dances better than I do. And she's currently getting rave reviews in the New York Times and other papers for the work that she's doing in a play that's breaking barriers with people, actors with disabilities, that's being performed on Theater Row in New York. Now, back in the day, my sister has been on one leg since 1982, and back in the day, someone did an interview with her. I think it was on the Today Show, and they coined the term woman of courage. She truly is a woman of courage. However, in our family, we like to get a bit silly, and she's taken a bit of ribbing over the years, oh, woman of courage, that whole thing. And but she is truly, every day, a woman of courage. And there have been times in my life where I have struggled with darkness, with sadness. And many of us have. And I can tell you that having a sister known as the woman of courage can really bring out some interesting feelings of inadequacy. And depression loves those feelings of inadequacy. There were times when she was giving me all this love and support, and all I could hear in my head was, she overcame cancer twice. You're moping. Get over it. So courage to someone moving through depression is a very different experience. Courage can mean waking up and agreeing to open your eyes, agreeing to get out of bed. For some people, embracing life is an act of courage. Simply stepping onto the floor and moving into the day. And so understanding that piece, we can see how courage shows up in different situations, in different examples, through different things. It's not just the absence of fear or the opposite of cowardice. Courage is actually defined as the quality of mind or spirit that enables a person to face difficulty, danger, pain, etc., the quality of mind or spirit. So for some of us, like I've said, this can mean I brushed my teeth today and I put on pants that were not sweatpants. I went out and I got the mail. For some others, courage means climbed Denali. I zip-lined in Costa Rica. I rode a roller coaster. For others, it means telling the truth in an uncomfortable situation. You have to tell somebody something and it's like, oh man, I gotta muster up some courage. Or sometimes it can mean letting someone get to know us, sharing ourselves, opening ourselves up. It takes courage. Courage can look like getting married. Courage can look like never getting married. It can look like moving away from home and seeking adventure. Or it can look like staying put and creating a life right where you are. And courage can also come in handy in times when we feel like we have no foothold. Like when we were 6 and we started school. Or when we took our tray in the high school cafeteria and tried to find that table amidst all the screaming people. Learning to make decisions after an event in our life that changes everything. Moving forward after hearing a medical diagnosis that could stop some people, and yet it doesn't stop us. Simply finding our way in a new and different environment. So there's this show on Netflix, some of you may have heard about it. I don't know, it's not that popular, but it's called Orange is the New Black. I'm an addict, okay? I'm an addict, I admit it. Now, why is this show such a phenomenon? There are a lot of reasons. I know, some of them you can't talk about on a Sunday morning. However, I'm going to venture to propose this possibility. People love this show because the characters are so completely fleshed out, written, directed, and acted so flawlessly that they've become three-dimensional people to us. We talk about them like they're our friends, like they're people we're worried about. And what's moving about each and every character is their courage, their element of courage, dealing with horrifically unfair situations. And so does anybody not know what Orange is the New Black is? Anybody? Okay. Orange is the New Black is a television show on Netflix. It's a Netflix series, so they call it dropping. They dropped all 13 episodes at once, so you can binge watch it all the way through. They just finished season 2. For those of us who are addicts, we watched all of season 1 in a matter of 24 hours. And then had to wait for season 2. And season 2 just dropped, and most of us have finished it. I'm watching it for the second time. And it's a story based on a book by a woman named Piper Kernan, who wrote the book Orange is the New Black. She's a Upper West Side, Manhattan, middle-class, white, blonde girl who 10 years earlier carried a suitcase full of money for her drug-dealing girlfriend. And the statute of limitations is 12 years, and at 10 years, she was arrested.
Oh no.
And because of mandatory minimums, she had to serve time in a federal prison. So her book is actually mostly about prison reform. It's about the difficulties of mandatory minimums, why they're unreasonable, and the difficulties that women experience in these prison environments. And so her book is pretty straightforward. The woman who did the TV show Weeds took her book and has created this world for us. So most of it's from the book, and a lot of it is imaginary. But we get to know all these characters, and it's wonderful. They're facing consequences of their own actions, as well as consequences of the system, constantly. And they're facing it with courage. There's a character named Sophia up in the corner there, who is a transgendered actress playing a transgender character. Thank you. And her character is dealing with having to be herself and learning how to be herself and facing her wife who wants to move on and her son who turned her in. There's characters asking for forgiveness all the time, learning how to live again, finding that courage to let go of addiction, to let go of dreams, to let go of possibilities that they have to let go of in order to move forward. And then the main character, Piper, who is becoming someone she's never been before. And she's having to face the courage to step into that, to be that person, to own who she's becoming. So theatrically and thematically, courage shows up in television shows, books, movies, popular music. And we're going to keep going with some pop culture here. It shows up in musical theater. And since we are already here with The Lion, we're going to go a little farther with Wicked. Wicked is the musical based on the book Wicked, which is based on the story, the backstory of the Wicked Witch of the West. Her true story, how she became that. And her name is Elphaba, which, for those of you who don't know, is created because the initials of the writer of The Wizard of Oz is L. Frank Baum, LFB, Elphaba. Yeah, that's it. Sorry, had a moment there. So Elphaba, who we now know as the Wicked Witch, started out as a love child who was born inexplicably green. And she's smarter than most people. She's more deeply sensitive than most people. And she's sent from home to a high-class boarding school with non-green people who are not like her. They don't accept her, and they bully her. And the biggest bully of all is a young woman named Galinda, who later becomes Glinda the Good. Elphaba's courage, her conviction, her inner strength is what causes audiences to fall in love with her. They cheer for her. In the original book, she's actually a political activist, which takes even more courage, and that's what gets her in trouble and continues her journey onward. The character, if I can say, is wickedly courageous. And in her battle for self-identity and righteousness, she's constantly fighting for the good. That's the irony of the story. And it's only when she keeps trying to do good and her good keeps going wrong that she identifies herself as wicked. And even in that moment, when she claims her wickedness, audiences cheer because it's this courageous affirmation of who she needs to be. So having the courage to step in or step out, to face our fears, is not easy, and it's not really fun. And in some cases, it can actually be life-threatening. And I don't mean in the, like, I'm going bungee jumping, oh my God, the cord snapped. Not in that kind of dangerous way. I mean, for some people, having the courage to simply be themselves, to step out of societal norms, can actually be dangerous. And I have some stories I want to share with you. So first I'm going to combine a couple of things I've already talked about. I'm going to combine prison and The Wizard of Oz. I know. Go with me here. In Chillicothe, Ohio, at Ross Correctional Institution, there is a 6'4" African-American man named Joseph Sims. He put on braids and a blue dress, and with Toto sitting by his side, he sings one of the most beautiful versions of Somewhere Over the Rainbow I have ever heard in my life. He's completely courageous. He's in a maximum security prison for check fraud, alongside people who are in maximum security prison for major crimes. He's gay and out, and he's risking his life every day. And when he did this, he definitely put himself on the line. Also courageous is the man behind this project. His name is Darwin Seacrest. He's a corrections officer with 20 years of experience, and he's known in the prison as a hard ass. from the prisoners and his co-workers. This whole production was his idea. He thought if he could give them something to do that was productive, that had a result, that encouraged them, it would empower these men. And he knew it wouldn't be easy. He had to convince them to be interested in it. He had to get them to read the original book when some of them can't read. He had to get them to sit and watch the movie, and then created the play with the inmates as musicians and actors, and make it workable inside a prison, which included, they had to get special paint for the sets. There were, everything had to be approved, and none of it was paid for by taxpayers. Everything was paid for by donation. One of the gentlemen in the band, Jacob Bocchino, is an inmate doing 20 to life for sexual assault of children. And he said The Wizard of Oz was an opportunity to start rebuilding his life by doing something positive. He's 26 years old. He's going to get out. And he's a talented guitarist. And he said, you don't have the opportunity to show your worth in here. I just wanted to participate. The gentleman who played the Cowardly Lion and another gentleman who played Glinda both commented, well, I could do this, or I could sit in the block with the other guys and come up with ways to be more creative in committing crimes. And they risked ridicule and worse by doing this. I mean, the guy playing Glinda agreed to do it and then found out he had to wear a dress. He was like, you didn't tell me that at the beginning. But they want to change who they're going to be, because eventually they're going to be out in the community and they don't want to go back out and do the same thing they did before. So true courage. Check it out. It's an amazing article, and if you go to the website, you can hear him sing. And it's astounding. It's astounding. And then there's the story of Irene Sendler, a Polish woman who saved 2,500 children from the Warsaw Ghetto in 1942 and 1943. She was a Catholic social worker, and she became concerned for the children in the Warsaw Ghetto. People were dying from disease and hunger and being sent to death camps. She convinced Jewish parents that their children were going to die if they didn't do something. And so she started working as a handy person. And she started smuggling children out in toolboxes and laundry bags. And she would put them in the back of her truck, and she got a big dog that had a big ferocious bark. And the bark scared the Nazi patrols and covered the sounds any of the children might make. She found the children places in orphanages or convents or in the homes of Polish people. She made lists of the children's names and hid them in jars in her garden, so that at the end of the war she could find the children and tell them who they were and who they belonged to. She was eventually discovered. She was tortured, arrested and tortured and imprisoned by the Nazis for the rest of the war. The Polish underground bribed a guard to let her escape, and she spent the remainder of the war in hiding. And before she transitioned in 2008, a group of students in rural Kansas discovered her story and created Life in a Jar Project, and they worked with her. They contacted her and worked with her, and they created an educational play about her life, World War II, the children, the Holocaust, and the play has been performed more than 400 times. It's great. So now a metaphorical approach to courage from the African savannas. So as herds eat their way across Africa, across the plains, lions will wait in the tall grass to get them. Well, to have dinner. I should defend the lions. They have to do what they have to do. Now, in preparation for this, what they'll do is they'll send the old lions to one side of the plains. The old lions can't really bite and hunt anymore, but they can still roar, and their roar is ferocious. So they send all the old lions over here, and all the young lions over here. And as the herds come through, the old lions roar, and it's terrifying. And in fear, the herds run from the roar right into the jaws of the waiting lions. Tell me. Lions aren't dumb. So the elders in the community use this situation as a teaching tool for the young kids, and they tell them, run towards the roar. When faced with great danger in the world, run towards the roaring. Go where you fear to go, for there you will find safety and a way out of danger. I've heard that expression before. In 2004, I did courage training with Dan Millman, who wrote Way of the Peaceful Warrior. He used to do this courage training thing in California, where he'd take a group of about 20 people, and he'd teach metaphors for life through knife fighting. And we didn't use real knives. We used little rubber tubes. But we'd spend 7 days with him, training, learning the art of sword fighting and knife fighting as a metaphor for stepping into life or stepping away. And what I learned was, if you're in a knife fight, if you step back, you're going to get killed. You have to step in. This was part of the process of learning it. So at the end of the 7 days, our final exam was going up against 3 knife-wielding opponents. And I failed the first time. And I thought, man, I just spent 6 days with Dan Millman and I failed. That's not okay. And so he gave me a second chance. He said, I'm going to give you, there were 3 of us. He said, we're going to give you a second chance. And I kept pulling back and I kept pulling back. And finally, one of them said, hold on. And he took a break and he came right up to me and he said, go straight to the heart of danger and there you will find safety. Step in. And as soon as I did that, I conquered them all. It's that same idea of the lions. Go towards the danger. See, and remember, the wizard tells the lion, you are under the unfortunate delusion that simply because you run away from danger, you have no courage. You're confusing courage with wisdom. So hear me on this. Not all of us need to run into risky situations. I'm not telling you, run into traffic. No. That's where the wisdom comes in. So there is a stepping in to the danger with courage. And there's a wisdom to that. So we just have to remember that it takes courage to simply be ourselves, to speak our truth, to live authentically and happy without endangering ourselves. Does that make sense? I know it's kind of blobby, but it's there. It's there. And here's what I really know. It takes courage to live in the world today. It takes courage to live in our country today. It takes courage right now to live in our state. There are people of varying and often irrationally passionate opinions about guns and marriage equality, about prison reform and foreign policy and homelessness and climate change. You name it, it's all on Facebook. And sometimes speaking up or stepping in can be courageous and dangerous, as we learned. But if it matters to us, if it's important to us, if it's what God's calling us to do, if it's what our inner voice of spirit is calling us, then we will have the courage that we need. It's already within us. We just need to tap into it. It's there. Like I said a couple weeks ago, we come fully loaded. It's all there. So I'm going to close with the words from one of my favorite courageous spiritual warriors, Vincent van Gogh. He said, "What would life be like if we had no courage to attempt anything?" And when I look and see and take in his magnificent artwork, and I think about his life, I am so grateful that he had the courage to paint his passions, to step in. His courage, along with many others, along with everyone in this room, we inspire each other to keep stepping in. Let's do some prayer. So just taking this breath. Taking the breath to be here now. To think on the times when we have had to muster up every bit of courage we have. Thinking about those times when it was effortless to be courageous. Those times when we're triumphant. When we finish a race or a workout, when we finish writing a paper for school, when we finish doing an accomplishment, we finished our shift at work and we know we did good for people. When we've healed people, when we've helped people, when we've stepped out of our comfort zone courageously to be ourselves, how good and triumphant that feels. To store up that feeling, to carry us through those moments of darkness when we're wondering, where did our courage go? It didn't go anywhere. We are all capable of saving children. We are all capable of bravely being ourselves in the world. We are all capable of running towards the roar. And best yet, we're not alone when we do it. We have this continuous companion of spirit that's in us, around us, with us, as us. It is us. It wants to run towards the roar. It's carrying us along with it. And so if there is anything happening in our lives today, anything happening, anything going on our hearts, in our minds, in our lives, where we are feeling less than courageous, I invite you to give that feeling, that thought, those negative voices, give it to the stone. Just drop it into the stone. Because it's getting in the way. We've got things to do in this world. We all have things to do in this world. Don't let that stop you, that voice. Know that the courage is within you to do anything and everything you want to do and that you are called to do. As you place the stone in the water, know that it is releasing that from you. You are no longer needing to carry it. And it will be prayed on and lifted and carried for you so that you are free. You are free to be the courageous, radiant, magnificent being of God that you are. Yes, that is who we are. With deep gratitude, I say thank you, life. Thank you. And Ashe, Amen.